I'm honored and humbled to be now entering my 8th year as your mayor. It's been a special time. It's been a special time. I think we've been able to do a number of really, really good things because of Team Guthrie. And I think we've got some really wonderful opportunities ahead of us. I was thinking about what makes a community successful the other day when I was kind of preparing some notes for this. And I jotted down just a few things, not a comprehensive list at all, but just a few things of what I think some of the components of being a successful community are. There's a vibrancy that you can feel in the community, an environment in which there's a progressiveness, there's a positiveness, a positivity that's happening in our community because of things that are going on. What does successful look like? It looks like a strong cadre of individuals and organizations step forward and take the lead in organizing events, festivals, activities, celebrations, things that you all do. It's a citizenry that's willing to spend some time and some energy on hospital boards and hospital committees. Some of you in this room I've contacted and are on some of those boards and committees to make your community better. Citizenry involvement. It's respecting and learning from the past, appreciating what is happening now, and understanding where we want to be in the next few years. It's a government structure that supports a culture of quality service and a culture that relies on a strong financial base. It's community having pride and support of their city government. And as I wrote that, I was recalling one of my first years as mayor. I was with a bunch of other mayors that were had more tenure, and I said, how do you measure a successful city government? And one of the more tenured mayors says, well, here in Oklahoma, if your city government has as much pride and support as your high school football team, you have made it to the top. You have made it to the top. You know, and I kind of chuckled a little bit, but you know what? There's a lot of truth in that metric. There's a lot of truth in that metric. I think we have that here in Guthrie. So what does successful citizen community look like? It's a partnership of private and public organizations like the Chamber, like the organizations that are here, like the universities, like Langston, like the ministries, like the churches that are here. It's that kind of partnership along with the city government that meets the challenges and takes advantage of the opportunities that come our way. A successful community is a creative and resourceful, knowledgeable city leadership and staff. Well, as a mayor over those last 7 years, almost 8, I have seen these components in Guthrie. And as a citizen for 20 years, I've seen that component grow. And it's a lot, I think it's a lot that we can celebrate. And it's because of, as Brittany said, it's a lot because of Team Guthrie. It's a lot because of Team Guthrie. So I'm personally proud of what we've been able to accomplish. I think the team, including the city council, the chamber, media, churches. I'd like to share just a very personal note of a time in which I was a part of the decision-making process in my tenure over those 8 years, and that was about 6 years ago, and that was the hiring of Leroy Alsup. Leroy's been a catalyst in all of the things that you're going to be seeing. He has been behind the scenes forever, doing a lot of hard work, as well as being a leader in Team Guthrie. So I'd like all of you to welcome and thank leader of our Team Guthrie, Leroy Alsup. Leroy.
This is state of city, but you can't separate community and city. They kind of go hand in hand. Of course, we take great pride in the fact that we were first Oklahoma capital, and now we call ourselves the film capital of Oklahoma. And one thing that I would point out with that is We didn't learn anything in 1910 when we lost the Capitol. We should have learned there's somebody that wakes up every day that's going to try to take something away from you that has value or good. It's just like the film capital. Look how many towns now are trying to be the film capital of Oklahoma. Look at Lazy Arena and the national events they bring in. There's somebody else trying to get those events at their arenas. Our Christmas celebration. Look at Chickasha with their leg lamp, whether you like it or not, it's getting a lot of attention, the tallest tree in Oklahoma. So it's a competitive world, and you can't just rest and say, we've arrived, because tomorrow you're going to have to compete again. As the mayor indicated, our city council, they also serve as the Public Works Authority and our Economic Development Authority. The names of the individuals on the screen, I won't go through all their duties, but I will tell you, city manager, of course, runs the day-to-day operations, but there is nothing that happens at the city that at some form or another doesn't go through the city council and have their blessing, their input. So everything the city does ties back to our leadership, the city council. And in the 6 years I've been here, the city council has worked with staff. We've had spirited debate at times. Sometimes it got pretty lively. But our city council has given staff flexibility and room to do the things they need to do to implement some of our projects. This is the team that makes things happen. We operate not as just a city manager form in government, but we got a management team. And I can tell you, I've been doing this for 40 years, and this is the best management team I've ever had. These individuals, we operate a lean team. If you talk to any of them, they'll tell you, well, 10 years ago, we had 5 more people. Well, that's not possible in today's world. So they make things happen with a lean team, with limited resources, and they are learning all the time. Every one of these individuals has written a grant to supplement their budget. They've had to make things happen when there may be 3 people short, but they put the right people in place and they get it done. Guthrie employees always answer the call. And this is just a few of the faces of our city employees. And we've got dedicated, hardworking employees. It doesn't matter if it's 10 degrees and you're standing knee deep in water, you're in an accident scene or fighting a fire, our employees show up. One of the things that has happened over the last 6 years, I never will forget my first day. I started on February 6th, and city clerk came to me and said, we got 3 payrolls in March. We don't have enough money to pay them. That's where we were. We started the general fund in 2017 budget year, and our budget year starts in October with almost 400,000. We had to do a mid-year adjustment. The fire union, police union, everybody worked with us to do a realignment. Since then, the fund balance of our 4 major funds have went from 2.5 to 6.5. It's grown over 162%. When you got financial stability, it allows you the freedom to do some things you otherwise can't do. And we guard that very carefully. It's always easy. We need 3 more firefighters. We need 2 more police officers. We need it. That's an easy request. And they may need them. But you always have to judge what your resources are. And unfortunately, back leading up to this situation in 2017, the general fund expenses were growing faster than our revenue. We don't get property taxes. When you pay your property tax, none of that comes to the city. We operate off of sales tax, utility fees. If you look at this, you can see fire department, EMS is roughly 21% of our budget. Police is 22%. So almost half of our budget goes to police and fire. The mayor talked about partners. I only have 1 page to do this on. There could be a lot more up here. But just like you all in your organizations, we have partners And you can't accomplish things in a community if you don't have everybody working together. All of the education facilities and institutions, healthcare, Chamber of Commerce, downtown merchants, our banking community, industry, our service clubs, real estate developers, our utilities, our hotels. We have to work with state government, sometimes federal government, sometimes it's get grants, sometimes it's regulations that we have to follow. The Lazy E is a big partner for our community and brings a lot to town. These partnerships don't work if you only talk to each other when there's a crisis. These partnerships work because you spend time every month developing those relationships. And you all know Dr. Simpson, he can get a little high strung. Never seen it, have you? But Dr. Simpson and I have a deal. If for some reason something doesn't go one of our way, we're going to get together and work it out. We're going to be partners. That takes effort, but it brings value to the community. One of the most critical things for a community, if they want to grow and they want to bring young people, young families, young entrepreneurs to the community, is education. What Dr. Simpson and his team has done over the last few years for our education system, what our community's done in passing bonds to give them the financing to do some of those, we made great strides under Dr. Simpson's leadership. The investment that Meridian Tech has made in this facility, it's going to pay dividends for years. We all have to support public education and our education system, including Langston University, which I didn't put on this slide, but they're important as well. Healthcare. You're not going to bring industry to your town. You're not going to have a good community if you don't have a good healthcare system. I think there's a lot of challenges our community faces, but we have a lot of assets as well. We sit right on I-35. We're on the Burlington Railroad. We're close to Will Rogers World Airport. And hopefully, someday in the near future, we'll have the Heartland Flyer stopping in town. None of the public institutions can do anything unless the private sector is humming along. You got to have a vibrant economy. Fortunately for us, it could be better, but we got a very vibrant downtown. We got Lazy Arena that brings over 500,000 people to town every year. We're a growing community. Location-wise, being on I-35, adjacent to all those, look at all the area universities we have close to us, technology centers that we have in our immediate back door. And of course, we have this facility right here. Logan County is the third fastest growing county in Oklahoma. In Guthrie, right now, we are seeing 4 subdivisions being developed that will bring over 850 new homes in the next few years. And at 2.5 residents per house, that's a growth of over 2,000 people. So our community is positioned for growth. Retail business. We've got many established retailers that have been here for a number of years. But if you look at this slide, we have attracted many new retailers, maybe not national chains. This is what makes the economy go. It's not what I do at City Hall, it's what the private sector does that allows me to have the sales tax dollars to provide police, fire, other services. We've been very blessed with our architectural history that stands out, brings a lot of tourists to town. We have an obligation to protect that. I know we disagree on what that means sometimes, but I think we all concur that this is a value to our community that we want to protect. We have a lot of festivals. It seems like Justin is bringing some permit to me to sign for us closing a street. So-and-so doesn't like that street closed. This group wants to close it. It gets a little interesting at times. But those festivals bring people to town. Not only the day of the festival, but they come back because they enjoy themselves. If there's a street closed, whether it's for a movie or a festival, I can guarantee you the city is involved. We either put out barricades, clean up, provide security. When I first came here, we looked at just the 89ers because that's one of our biggest ones. and looked at the manpower, our regular pay, our overtime pay, the materials, we spend about a little over $30,000 every year on that event. So people don't realize, because we're behind the scenes, there's a lot of significant things. And I know people get upset sometimes. You know, we got water leaks, we got roads to take care of, we may have short crews. When you schedule, you want a barricade put up on 2 weeks from now, and then you call, well, I want it up today. Well, we've already scheduled our workout, so sometimes we can't be quite as flexible as people want. We really take pride in all our festivals, and we're glad to be a partner with them. We just want everybody to realize it is an investment of time and effort on the city for those events. Tourism. We now have 2 basically Christmas celebrations, one the first 2 weeks of December and one the second 2 weeks. I think they're starting to work better together, and I think that's a blessing and will pay dividends in the future. The Pollard Theater is a big asset, and we're trying to work with them to get some renovations done through some public funding. The arts are very critical, just like education and healthcare. You got to have arts in your community if you're going to attract entrepreneurs and young families. We have been fortunate. We've had as many as 14 movies filmed in Guthrie in 1 year's time. That is becoming very competitive. We are doing everything we can to remain competitive in that environment. Lazy Arena, as they talked about, they bring over 500,000. They're competing right now for a national junior high rodeo and a national high school rodeo. Each of those events will bring 5,000 to 7,000 people here for 7 to 10 days. How many steaks can those cowboys eat in a week? It's great for our community. Justin's did a great job with the bike culture and the biking community. It's amazing how many people and how far they ride just to come have coffee after they have a long ride. Justin's did a great job on that. Infrastructure. Because of all the festivals, we are trying to upgrade our power access points so that we can accommodate more food vendors at events and more vendors, more trailers. So slowly we're trying to upgrade that. Annual street overlay. Everybody's got a street they want paved. We have, through a user fee, $4.25 that's on your utility bill, generates about $235,000 a year. Through our 3/4 cent sales tax, we set aside $200,000 a year. That's $435,000. We do an annual overlay project of about $100,000. We got a 3-member committee of our city council that decides which are our priorities that year. And then we do $100,000 on ADA accessibility, sidewalks, crossings. Sometimes those are combined together. And then we try to set $200,000 to maybe do some larger projects. Of course, Harrison Bridge, which nobody even knew there was a bridge there when we had to put the barricades up. That was a $600,000 project, so that added up 3 years, and nobody really sees that as an accomplishment, but it had to be done. Some projects that we've done that we're very proud of, the disc golf course in Highland Park, it is very highly rated. We use 3/4 cent sales tax funds out of our capital improvement to do the Banner Park and splash pad. That was our first splash pad in Guthrie and our first park that was completely ADA accessible. We're very proud of that project, and I think it's done a lot for that neighborhood. Minter Wells Park, on the right, we used our sales tax to build the basketball court and resurface the tennis court, even put in pickleball for old guys like the mayor. At the same time, we redid the tennis courts in Highland Park. We got a grant for the other improvements, a splash pad, new playground, and some shelters. So it was paid for 50-50 with city funds and grant funds. We've been successful in other grant applications. We've gotten more since I did this slide. But for example, we bought 2 ambulances that cost us $326,000, but we got $164,000 of that paid for by a USDA grant. We're very active on trying to pursue grant applications. And like I said, there is not one department head that's not written the grant and administered it. Same way with fire pumper we bought, a street sweeper. On these projects, $7 million worth of projects with ARPA, with our EMS funding, grant funds, 46% of that $7 million was paid with grant funds, with the other 72%. So roughly 28% of $7 million came out of local tax dollars. So we try to stretch those local tax dollars by supplementing them with grant funds. Big project for a community our size that we had no choice to do. Our existing wastewater treatment plant had reached the end of its life cycle. It was built before they did floodplain maps. Our actual wastewater treatment plant, it's not in the floodplain, it's in the floodway. We've had to boat people out of there. We've had to shut the plant down at different times. We had no choice but to build a new facility. $20 million, you all probably won't go out and celebrate when we open it up, but that is a big investment for our community, something you gotta have. Highland Hall, we set aside $500,000 out of our CARES Act money that we got to do some renovations. When we went out for bids with inflation that we've seen the last 18 months, it's sticker shock when you get the bids in. We're going back and we're probably going to do the restroom facilities first and then see where we're at, and then we'll do some other improvements. It's amazing the supply chain, what it's done to us, and inflation. We got a $381,000 grant from Department of Commerce. We didn't even have to provide any matching money. We got 7 buildings where we're replacing the HVAC systems, and on several of them we're replacing the old windows. That's all grant money. We got a grant for a downtown pop-up shop, $100,000, and then we're doing some in-kind work with it. The concept there is if you got a small business that wants to start up, they don't have to spend their life savings or their inheritance. This will be an economical way for them on a small scale to see if their business model works. We're hoping that individuals that have brick and mortar stores come rob these from us. If they do well, we want to see them in a brick and mortar store or location. It's a starting place. We're excited about that. We are going to target opening this facility probably during the week of 89ers. We got a grant. It's the area in red off of 5th Street, and we will now have a pedestrian bridge across the creek to get into the old elbow area on Noble Park, and we got a grant to pay part of that. We'll have about $100,000 of city dollars, and then we'll have in-kind labor. This project will have several amenities with it. Of course, the pedestrian access bridge. It'll be built large enough so we can get emergency vehicles over there if we have issues. We have reading stations to encourage young people to use the trail. We got fitness stations along it. We've applied for a grant to do more of the blue area, to expand it. Hopefully we will be awarded that grant. Owens Field, we got $1 million and we matched it with $1 million local to build 3 new softball fields at Owens Field. That project has taken some time because doing the environmental process, the Osage Nation has now gotten involved in that, and we have to satisfy their cultural resource studies as part of that process, and it is drawing it out. And every day we wait, the price just goes up, but we will get it done. Projects that we're in the process, we have a grant application with the Oklahoma Department of Commerce. You can see there at Highway 33 and between 35, 77 acres. We want to make that a shovel-ready industrial park. When you bring an industrial park town, and basically you got farmland. You don't have all the utilities, it's not level. Well, where they go, they want to start building right away. And if there's another town 30 miles up the road that has a shovel-ready park, well, Leroy, it's nice to see you, but we're going somewhere else. This will make us more competitive. We think that from our feedback, we've got a pretty good chance of getting that funded, and it'll be a 50-50 project. It's about a $5 million project. Airport terminal, we're one of the fastest growing airports in the state of Oklahoma. We have 120 plus planes based at our airport. We're looking at putting in a new airport terminal that will even make us more attractive. It's a $4 million project. If we get the grant, the city of Edmond and the city of Guthrie will each put $250,000 in. The rest of it will be grant funds. Talking about the filming industry, we are trying to get a soundstage that will make us more competitive in recruiting movies. This soundstage will serve two purposes. It will be a center for the Film Institute here at the Career Tech to use as a learning lab. So they will have complete access to it. At some point, the Career Tech may even manage this facility, but it will serve the two purposes of being there to attract more films, to be filmed in our community where they have a controlled environment, and also as a learning lab for people in the Film Institute. We're working with all the movies that come to town to use students in that Film Institute, provide them internships. One of the things that we see in Oklahoma right now is it appears that those in charge of the film tax credits, they only want the mega movies. Well, when you do things like Tulsa King and The Flower Moon, those are great things, you get a lot of things. But you're not building the infrastructure of workers to support the film industry in Oklahoma. It's just like graduating from college with a degree in public administration. Edmond's not going to hire me next week. Same way when you come out of the Film Institute, you got to start with the smaller movies and build your credits up. If we're not doing the smaller movies where those people can get their credits and build up, when the big movies come in, the blockbusters, they bring their crews with them. Well, yeah, we can really hang our hat on those big things, but we're not building the infrastructure. And somehow we got to get that across to the people in charge. This is just a rendering of what our soundstage would look like. So these are some of the things we've done, some of the things we got in the works. Infrastructure is our biggest challenge. If it wasn't for infrastructure, we'd probably be in pretty good shape. We got 55 miles of water lines that predate 1975. This is a 2021 estimate, $31 million. Anybody that's been building anything in the last couple of years, they know that 31 million is not realistic anymore. Water tower maintenance to maintain our water towers, 2 million. We need a booster pump to increase the amount of water we can get from the lakes as our community grows, another $1 million. We need to do some work on the Guthrie Lake Spillway. We've got 22 miles of sewer lines that need to be replaced. So that adds up to 62 million. Sooner Road and 19th Street and the two bridges on Sooner Road, that's about $12 million project. Other infrastructure, we got 9 other bridges that will have to be replaced over the next few years. We need to relocate the youth baseball complex out of the floodplain, $5 million project. We need to replace our swimming pool. That's about a $5 million project. At some point, we're going to need, as our county continues to grow, look at a second fire EMS station. That's roughly a $4 million project. Just like we're doing the industrial park out on I-35, we'd like at some point to do a 70, 80 acre aviation business park at the airport. That's $106 million. That's what your water goes through. That is mineral buildup. Water's safe to drink. You can go buy the best bottled water at Walmart or wherever you want to go, but still got to go through these pipes to get to your house. So if we don't come up with a way to do $31 million of work, you're going to have to deal with that. And every time there's a leak or something that stirs those minerals up, that's where you get odor, you get cloudiness in the water. The pipes are so brittle, they're always breaking. You see on Facebook almost every day our crew's out. This particular pipe that I showed you was put in 1920. We had a leak on that pipe back in February. the shutoff valves to isolate it so that you could work on replacing that one section. We went all over town trying to shut off valves. They don't work. They're froze. We had to shut the water plant down in order to do this work. That's not a good situation. Then you get into a fire situation that if you deplete your reserves that you have in water tanks, then you get into a situation if you have a major fire. To put this in a little perspective, we're not alone. There's 2.2 million miles of water system in the United States. There's a water main break every 2 minutes in the United States. 6 million gallons of treated water lost every day. That's enough to fill 9,000 swimming pools every day. The treated water that's being lost in the United States. It's a national situation. It's not just Guthrie. In 2015, communities were replacing about 0.5% of their pipes a year. That'd take 200 years to replace it. Pipes don't last 200 years. In Guthrie, in 2019, 2022, we got CDBG grants. We've applied for a grant from OWRB, which we feel pretty comfortable we get. Those 3 projects will replace 2.75 miles roughly, and it will be roughly $4 million, $2 million paid from grants, $2 million paid from our utility funds. That 2.7, you can compare that from 1995 to 2015, we only replaced 2.5 miles of water lines. So our progress is improving, but at some point, you're not going to get enough grants to do it. And our community is going to have to make the collective decision. We're going to have some pretty substantial water utility rate increases if we want to address this problem. This is just a listing of mostly painting, but we need to pay attention to our water tanks and tires. $26 million of sewer mains to replace. Kind of go through the problems. You have backflow, you have stoppages. We pursued grants because you're looking at these 2 projects, 19th Street and Sooner Road. You're looking at $12 to $14 million to do those right, not just patching. And right now we've got a couple grant applications in to try to get the funding. We'll provide match funding to do those projects. The youth baseball complex that's at Cottonwood Flats, it's in the floodplain. And it would be all right if it flooded every 10 years, but I put the frequency of the floods and the elevation, and you can see it's a regular occurrence. We would like to eventually be able to figure out a way to finance to relocate the baseball. Our aquatic center was built in the 1940s. You can see over here on the bottom left, the concrete is just deteriorating. We patch it together every year. It's amazing the amount of water that we lose that we have to backfill every day to keep that facility open. It is going to come to the end of its life in the next few years. If we want the type of aquatic center that the community deserves and wants, you're looking at about $5 million to put in a 0 depth entry, which is the kind of pool people want, water slides, swim lanes. Fire and EMS, the Logan County population growth, we talked about being the 3rd fastest. We talked about the number of new housing going in. We will need at some point to have a second fire station on the south end of town to provide the kind of response rates that we want to provide. The other challenge that we have, we provide ambulance service to about 2/3 of the county. That is funded by a 3 mil tax levy through an ambulance district. That revenue does not pay enough to fund it. So it's subsidized from sales tax that we otherwise you'd use for city projects. But if we didn't provide the ambulance service and you had IMSA, you'd probably have 1 ambulance here. So if we discontinue providing the ambulance service, the quality of the service would go down substantially. And I will tell you, I'm not going to name names, but right now we have an individual that's making an attack on that wants to get on that 522 board and carve out some of that money to put an ambulance in another part of the county. Well, we're not making enough money to serve the county now, if you start dividing that pie up, if we look at it as a business decision, we'd probably discontinue providing ambulance service. And the quality of service in our community would be very diminished. We are working with OG&E to supplement because the 3 mills for the ambulance district set by state constitution. So you gotta have voted people to raise that. Another option is in some areas, the utility provider has put on a subscription fee on the utility bills. You can opt out if you don't want to pay it. But most people don't opt out because if you're in that subscription, if you have an ambulance run, all you have to do is whatever your insurance pays is all we collect from you because you're a subscriber. But that generates additional money to supplement. OG&E seems receptive to that, and we're working with that to try to supplement. That will give us funding to add more firefighters, EMT to our staff to cover the load as we continue to grow. That's all I have today. Questions I might address.
The land where the industrial park, you all have an idea what kind of businesses you want in that park? Because that would be really good to bring revenue to Guthrie.
We are probably geared with its location on the highway, light industry, not heavy industry. We don't want smokestacks and odors and that kind of stuff. It would be the type of industry that would have all of their stuff inside, not a lot of stuff sitting outside, warehousing. Those would be the type of industry that we would try to recruit to that industrial park.
With the new softball fields going in, will the city be taking over those fields? Will the city have to be hosting any tournaments for baseball, softball to generate more money for the city?
We provide the facilities.
Okay.
And then we lease the facilities to the different sports organizations. We do the major maintenance, they do the day-to-day maintenance, field prep, providing the referees. All of those organizations are gearing up to host more tournaments. We don't have a rep program, but we will provide the facilities and work with all of the sports leagues so that they can host tournaments. I can tell you from myself, throughout the city organization, we take great pride in serving this community, and we take great pride in the friends and the partnerships we developed, and we spend a lot of time on those. A lot of people think that all we're doing is sitting at City Hall waiting for somebody to call with a project. That's not the case. Thank you all for your time today.